Welcome into Run the League. I'm your host, Grayson Grunhafer, and today we're going to continue my rookie prospect analysis for the 2022 NFL Draft. I'm really excited to continue talking about these rookies, so let's go ahead and get it going. Okay, everyone, so today we're going to talk about my wide receiver one in this rookie draft class. Now, obviously, there's a lot of really good ones out there. Treylon Burks, who I talked about in the last video. Drake London, who I'll talk about in another one coming up. There's a lot of really good ones. You know, I really like David Bell out of Purdue as well. But the top guy for me right now, and this is before landing spot. So obviously, landing spot has a lot to do with pretty much everything in a prospect's career. It's the reason why Trevor Lawrence looked as bad as he did this year for the Jaguars. Terrible landing spots can really hurt careers. But if I'm looking at a prospect and I go, man, this is the guy who I would want on my team, this is the guy who I think is going to be a superstar in the NFL, is Garrett Wilson, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. It's one of those things where I've seen this guy play since high school. He played at Lake Travis High School in the Austin area. Just was a superstar there. Absolutely just so fun to watch. Had a great college career at Ohio State. He's going to have a very good pro career, I think. And there's a lot of teams that are going to be interested in him. So I'll get to that in a little bit. But, of course, the format, I'm going to talk about him in high school, then college, talk about some strengths and weaknesses, some potential landing spots, and then his potential fantasy impact as well. So he's 6 foot, 193-pound wide receiver. Went to Lake Travis High School, was a 5-star, top 20 prospect in the entire country. His final 2 seasons at Lake Travis, he had 45 touchdowns and nearly 3,000 yards receiving. He was phenomenal. I mean, just a special player in high school. His testing was not elite in high school. At the opening, he ran a 4.61 40, a 4.20 shuttle, which is really good, and a 34.9-inch vertical. So it's not elite, but some good qualities in there. That shuttle and the vertical specifically are pretty solid. So moving on to college at Ohio State, he had 43 receptions for 723 yards and 6 touchdowns during the shortened COVID season. So he did that in 8 games, which is really impressive. I would consider that a breakout in his second year at Ohio State. He also had 5 touchdowns as a true freshman. So really, he's been making an impact since day one. And then his final year, this year, his junior year, 70 receptions, 1,058 yards, and 13 touchdowns in 11 games. Now, keep in mind that he did that despite having Chris Olave, who's going to be probably a top 2-round NFL draft pick this year from Ohio State, and then Jackson Smith-Njigba, another guy out of the state of Texas, went to Rockwall. He had the monster, over 300-yard game in the Rose Bowl. He'll probably be the number 1 overall wide receiver in next year's draft. He had to do this with those 2 guys on his team, and I think if you watch them play, Garrett really stood out for a number of reasons. And I mean, if you look at him play, the first thing that I notice every time I watch him is this quality of ball tracking, balance, and body control. When I watch this dude play and he goes up for a catch, it's amazing because he goes up there so ferociously, but then he comes down so gracefully. And it's really cool to watch. I know against Clemson a few years ago in the college football playoff, he had just a spectacular grab in one of those games. I mean, he's phenomenal. And that ball tracking, that body control, that balance, that all translates to the NFL. When he's going downfield against a safety in the slot or on the outside against a cornerback, you have to be able to go up and try to make those contested grabs. But the great ones are able to go up, grab it, and then make a play after the catch. And I think he could really do that because of that body control. Separation is no problem for him. He gets open very often. He does it downfield. He does it in the short slant game. He does it in a number of different ways. He's really a technician. And when I see that separation, I really see that translating. And honestly, I think he can play outside or in the slot. I think in the slot, he would be an absolute nightmare for defenses to guard. But I do think he's got the ability to do either. I I think he's got good speed. You know, that 4.61 from high school, I really think he's going to go to the combine and probably run, you know, low 4.4s, so probably a 4.44 or 4.45. I think he'll be in that range. And as long as he's sub 4.5, I'll still feel very confident that he could play outside or inside. If he's above 4.5, that makes me think he's probably for sure going to be a slot guy, which is fine as well, because, again, he gets open. And he's so quick in and out of his cuts, and that's what you see with his shuttle time. He's very quick and elusive and smooth, just very fluid as a route runner. He can win downfield, like I said, or in the slot. So very, very complete wide receiver. His weaknesses, not a great blocker. That's going to be something that he's going to have to develop if he wants to play a meaningful role at the NFL level. You got to be able to block some if you want to be on the field at all times. He doesn't have great strength or size. Like I said, just 6 foot 193. You know, he's not going to run over people. He's not going to do things like that, but he's quick and he can make people miss. So it kind of makes up for it a little bit. And he's not a freak athletically. You know, if you watch him run, you're not sitting there thinking, man, that's the most explosive athlete on the field. And that's okay because he makes up for it in other areas. As far as my comp goes, you know, I'm kind of torn here because he's not necessarily a guy that's going to create a ton of a ton of yards after a catch, nor is he a guy that you're going to hand the ball to a lot, which is something that Antonio Brown was known for early on in his career at Pittsburgh. But I see some qualities that are very similar, particularly the balance stuff and the ability to go downfield and make plays despite not being the biggest guy on the field and going and making contested catches. So I see Antonio Brown and then also Stephon Diggs. I kind of see a mixture of those two as what Garrett Wilson could be. And I mean, if he is a mixture of those two guys, my goodness, he's going to be an all-pro type guy. And that's why I think so highly of him, because I do think he can get to that level where he's a wide receiver 1 on a team. I really believe that based on what I've seen from him, and he would be an amazing wide receiver 2 on any team as well. Just a special player. You know, potential landing spots, I've seen the Saints at pick 18. I've seen the Jets at pick 10, which, wow, if he's a top 10 pick, that'd be incredible. Pairing him with Elijah Moore for the Jets would give Zach Wilson a really, really good base of weapons to build around in that offense. The Saints as well would be interesting, you know, with Michael Thomas and him there, that would be fun. But the best landing spot and the one that I've seen the most consistent, I mean, almost every draft has him going to the Cleveland Browns. And I think that would be phenomenal as well. If you look at Jarvis Landry, you know, he's kind of aging. He plays that slot role. He really needs someone next to him that can take some pressure off him and open up some things for him underneath. And I think Garrett Wilson can be that for that offense. I don't think it's the best landing spot necessarily for Garrett Wilson, but I think it's the best one for him being a wide receiver 1 immediately and the best fit for that offense. Cleveland needs a guy like him. They need an alpha number 1 receiver who's better than Odell Beckham Jr., and they need someone to take pressure off their run game. You know, they run the ball so effectively, there's no reason that they shouldn't be able to throw it significantly more effectively than they have in recent years. Now, you can blame Baker. That's fine. I would also say he hasn't had the best weapons to throw to. So if you throw in Garrett Wilson, I think the upside for that offense definitely goes up for next season. Now, fantasy impact, he's a top 3 pick for me. You know, I think for me, there's a clear top 3. Landing spot will affect some of these things, but for prospects, I have him in my top 3 along with Treylon Burks. So I think in Dynasty rookie drafts, I think he will go top 3, and I think he should. I personally would take him probably at the 102. I only have one guy ahead of him, and it's just because of the running back position. And that's a guy I'll talk about next week. But Garrett Wilson, very, very good player. He will do great things for your fantasy football team and for your real team going forward. Just an elite prospect and one who I think has a very high ceiling at the next level. So that's it for Garrett Wilson. That's it for my rookie profile analysis for this week. I'll have many more coming throughout the coming weeks as we get ready for the NFL draft, which is coming at the end of April. So it's a fun time. It's a fun time to evaluate these prospects. And like I said, I'll be talking about defensive guys as well later on and some more of the offensive guys. But for rookie draft fantasy wise, I got to stick to the obviously offensive guys a little bit more. So For Run the League, this has been Grayson Grunhafer on NFL on 365 Sports.